No one thought a quiet night in the nursery could turn into chaos. The baby monitor showed everything: the tiny crib, the sleeping baby, and then, out of nowhere, the family cat jumped in. Just seconds later, screams filled the house. What everyone thought was a harmless pet suddenly became the center of something no one could explain. The Johnson family had always believed that pets made a home feel warmer. Their grey tabby cat, Milo, had been with them for 3 years before baby Lily was born. Milo wasn't just a pet. He was the kind of cat who followed everyone around the house, always wanting to be part of whatever was happening. When Lily came home from the hospital, Milo seemed confused. He'd sniff the crib, tilt his head, and sometimes watch her from the doorway, as if trying to figure out what this tiny new creature was. At first, Emma and Daniel, Lily's parents, kept Milo out of the nursery. They'd heard all kinds of warnings from friends and relatives: cats stealing baby's breath, scratching without warning, or getting jealous. Emma didn't believe most of it, but she still wanted to be careful. "He's just curious," she'd say, gently picking Milo up when he'd try to follow her into the nursery. "But let's give him a little time." Weeks passed, and Milo's curiosity only grew. Every night, when the baby monitor light blinked softly in the corner of the living room, Milo would sit underneath it, tail swishing, ears twitching toward the faint sounds of Lily's breathing through the speaker. Sometimes Emma would wake up in the middle of the night and find Milo sitting just outside Lily's door, staring, unmoving. It was sweet, but also strange. Daniel, who worked nights occasionally, found it amusing. "He's guarding her," he'd joke while putting on his jacket. But Emma wasn't so sure. The way Milo lingered sometimes made her uneasy. It wasn't that he looked angry, more like focused, intent, as if he knew something they didn't one evening. After a long day, Emma put Lily down to sleep. The baby had been fussy all day, and it took nearly an hour to calm her. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint rhythm of the baby monitor. Emma finally sat down with a cup of tea and turned on a late-night show, her mind half drifting when she heard something through the monitor, a soft rustle, then a thump. She looked at the screen. The small green glow showed the outline of the crib, shadows shifting slightly. She leaned forward, squinting. Then she saw him, Milo. The cat had somehow jumped onto the crib's railing, his tail flicking as he balanced. Emma's heart jumped. "Milo," she hissed, standing up quickly. Before she could reach the door, she froze. On the monitor, Milo didn't look like he was about to settle in to sleep near Lily. He was standing on alert, staring into the corner of the nursery, not at the baby, but past her. His fur was puffed, tail arched, ears pinned back. And then he hissed, a low, guttural sound Emma had never heard from him before. Emma burst into the room just as Milo leaped down from the crib. He darted toward the closet, growling deep in his throat. Lily started crying, her tiny fists flailing. Emma scooped her up, heart pounding, scanning the room. There was nothing there, just a small pile of laundry and the rocking chair. "Milo, stop," she whispered, her voice trembling. But Milo wouldn't stop. He pawed at the closet door, yowling, fur bristled like he was in full fight mode. Emma opened the door slowly, half expecting something to jump out. Nothing, just shelves and Lily's blankets. That night, after she finally got Lily back to sleep, Emma sat in bed, replaying the scene in her head. She told Daniel when he got home, expecting him to think she was being dramatic. But instead, his face turned serious. "You're sure he wasn't looking at her?" "No," Emma said quietly. "He was looking past her, like at something." Daniel didn't say much after that, but he installed a new camera in the nursery the next day, one with night vision and sound. He didn't want to admit it, but something about Milo's reaction had unsettled him too. The following week seemed normal again. Milo stopped scratching at the closet and went back to curling up by the window. Lily was smiling more, babbling, her tiny hands reaching for everything. But Emma noticed small things that didn't sit right. Sometimes she'd find Milo sleeping under the crib, like he was guarding it. Other times, he'd wake up in the middle of the night and dart straight toward Lily's room before Emma even heard a sound from the monitor. It was almost like he sensed something before it happened, before Lily cried, before any noise at all. Then one night, everything changed. Daniel had just left for his overnight shift, and Emma was settling into bed. The baby monitor was beside her, showing the usual quiet crib scene. Lily had been asleep for an hour. The cat was nowhere in sight. Emma closed her eyes, letting herself drift until a faint scratching sound pulled her back awake. She blinked at the monitor. Milo was in the room again, pacing at the edge of the crib. His movements were restless, agitated. Emma sat up, watching closely. Then, before she could react, Milo suddenly jumped straight onto the crib railing, then into the crib itself. Emma gasped. She was on her feet in seconds, rushing down the hall. But before she even reached the door, she heard it, a sharp, high-pitched scream that wasn't the baby's. Her hand froze on the doorknob, through the monitor. The image flickered, the baby, the cat, a blur of movement, and then the screen went white for a split second before returning to normal. The baby was crying now, full-throated and terrified. Emma flung the door open, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Emma froze in the doorway for half a second before her instincts took over. She ran to the crib, heart hammering, and scooped Lily into her arms. The baby was red-faced and trembling, her little fists clutching at Emma's shirt. Milo was standing on the mattress, tail puffed, eyes locked on the corner of the room, again exactly like before. He hissed once more, low and drawn out, then leaped off the crib and crouched near the wall, growling at something unseen. Emma's eyes followed his line of sight, but there was nothing, just a patch of shadow stretching across the wall from the nightlight. She turned back to the baby, whispering, it's okay," though her voice was shaking. She had no idea what she was trying to convince her daughter or herself. Still holding Lily, she backed out of the room, calling for Milo. The cat stayed frozen in place, tail flicking, ears twitching. Then suddenly, he darted forward, batting at something invisible near the wall before bolting straight out of the nursery. Emma stood there, completely still, the silence ringing in her ears. The next morning, she told Daniel everything. He tried to hide his worry, but his face said it all. "We'll check the camera," he said quickly. "Maybe there's something." Logical, but there wasn't. When they replayed the footage from that night, the video started, normally the baby sleeping peacefully, Milo pacing near the crib. Then, just before he jumped, the room lights flickered slightly. It could have been the camera glitching, but then something else happened in the lower corner of the frame. The motion sensor light flickered again, like something moved, but there was no visible shape. The temperature monitor next to the crib dropped suddenly, a full 5 degrees in less than a second. Then Milo's head snapped toward the corner, and he hissed. That was when he jumped into the crib. Daniel paused the video and leaned closer. "That's weird," he muttered, trying to sound calm. Maybe a reflection. Emma shook her head slowly. No reflection drops the temperature. That night, neither of them slept much. Milo refused to leave Lily's door, curling up right outside it as if standing guard. The next few nights followed the same pattern. Nothing happened, but the cat's behavior grew stranger. He'd meow at the ceiling, pace the same spot, then finally settle under Lily's crib, watching her sleep like he was protecting her from something they couldn't see. Days passed. And even though nothing else dramatic happened, Emma couldn't shake the unease. The house felt different, like there was an extra presence just outside her awareness. It wasn't evil, exactly, just heavy. One afternoon, she was folding laundry in Lily's room while the baby napped. The air was still, sunlight coming through the blinds, and for a moment everything felt peaceful. Then she heard a faint creak like someone stepping on the floorboards behind her. She turned quickly, expecting to see Daniel, but no one was there. Her eyes landed on the closet door. It was slightly open, though she could have sworn she'd closed it that morning. She stepped closer, her pulse picking up. She reached for the knoband. Suddenly Milo darted in front of her. Growling, he stared into the crack of the closet, body stiff. Then, slowly, a small sound came from inside. It was soft, almost like a sigh. Emma froze, heart pounding. Her mind raced with explanations, draft, pipes, old wood, but none of them felt right. Milo hissed again, and the sound stopped. The cat stayed there for a long moment before turning to her, meowing softly, like he was checking if she was okay. That was the first time she truly felt like Milo knew something they didn't. That evening, she told Daniel again, but this time, instead of brushing it off, he called their neighbor, Ben, who worked in home maintenance. "Can you check our nursery? Just make sure there's nothing weird with the wiring or vents or whatever." Ben came over the next morning with his toolbox and spent nearly an hour in the nursery. He didn't find anything unusual until he reached the wall behind the crib. "Hey," he called out, tapping lightly. "There's a hollow space here. You sure this wall's solid?" Daniel frowned. "It should be. It's an exterior wall." Ben knocked again, and the sound was definitely hollow. "You might have a loose panel or crawl space. I can check it out if you want." Emma's stomach turned. Something about that wall had always bothered her the way Milo always faced it. The way the shadows seemed to move differently there. Ben carefully pried away a section of the baseboard, revealing a narrow gap. Dust puffed out, and then, when he shined a flashlight inside, he went completely silent. "You might want to see this," he said quietly. Inside the wall cavity was an old box, wooden, weathered, covered in dust. Ben slid it out carefully and handed it to Daniel. The air felt heavier suddenly, like the room itself was holding its breath. Daniel opened it slowly. Inside were several small items: an old baby rattle, a faded photograph of a woman holding an infant, and a folded piece of paper. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting faded, but still legible. Emma read it out loud. "For whoever finds this, I hope you treat her better than I could. I'm sorry for what happened in this room. Please keep her safe." No name, no date, just those words. The silence that followed was unbearable. Daniel finally whispered, "What happened here?" Emma didn't know. But as she looked at Milo, who sat watching from the doorway, she couldn't shake the feeling that somehow he'd been trying to show them this the whole time. That night, Daniel did some digging. He found that their house had been built in the late 50s and that before they bought it, it had sat empty for years. One article he stumbled on mentioned a family who used to live there decades ago, and a tragedy involving a baby. No details, just an unexplained incident. Emma didn't sleep at all that night. But something strange happened around 3 a.m. The baby monitor, which had been silent, suddenly came to life. Not with crying, not with noise, just static. Then, faintly, a soft humming sound. A melody, gentle and low, almost like a lullaby. She ran to Lily's room, but the baby was sound asleep. Milo was sitting under the crib again, eyes half closed, tail wrapped neatly around his paws. From that night on, the house felt calmer. No strange noises, no temperature drops. Milo stopped hissing at shadows, and for the first time, he slept away from the nursery. It was as if whatever had been there was finally gone. Weeks later, while tidying the living room, Emma found Milo curled up next to Lily's playmat. The baby reached out her tiny hand and patted his fur, giggling softly. Milo purred, eyes half shut, completely relaxed. Daniel came in from work, smiling. "You think we'll ever know what really happened?" he asked. Emma looked down at the cat and the baby together, then at the sunlight streaming through the window. "Maybe not," she said quietly. "But I think someone finally got to rest." That night, as they put Lily to bed, Emma glanced once more at the monitor, the crib, the soft light, the peaceful breathing all still. But right before she turned it off, she thought she saw something in the corner. A faint shimmer, almost like the reflection of someone standing there, watching over, and next to the crib, Milo lifted his head, eyes wide open, and purred once, then went back to sleep.